Hello guys and welcome back to another FPL video. Today I have a little bit of a different video than what I'm used to record, and I wanted to create this because when I open my YouTube, when I open my Instagram, when I open my X, I see the same draft over and over and over again. I see this 15 players with probably some differences depending on the budget that you have. This is the cheapest draft that I've seen. Basically, I own only one of the players, so I need to afford everyone else that got their price rises, like Senesi, Gabriel, Semenyo in particular. Then you look at someone like Reinders, Joao Pedro. All of them have increased in price, and I am getting them at their most expensive point. I am only the owner of David Raya, who has risen in price once again, but I think most of you have already got these players yourself. So what is the idea of this video? I'm going to probably destruct this draft, and I will showcase to you a different approach, because I think that this draft is, honestly, when I open every content creator videos and drafts that have activated the wildcard, they got at least 10 of these players, and I think that there is a reason for them to be here. But I disagree with some of them, and I disagree with the template building that we're having, because we're missing several things that are pretty important. I'm going to discuss them down the road. I opened this draft twice, so at the end of the video we can compare it once again to each other, and we are going to see what is the possible draft that we can rely on. Here we have our fixture difficulty rating open, and I will be taking care of seeing who else we can select for our team. We have up until game week 15. Those are a lot of weeks, so we can analyze it and we can start from there. Of course, you can just copy and paste this draft, and you have the same draft as everyone else that is activating their wildcard. But yeah, honestly, this draft is good for bench boost in 7, if I'm not mistaken. But come on, is it that important to see the bench boost? I don't think so. I think that bench boosting any particular draft at some point will be okay, because yeah, for example, Leeds in 8, sorry, they face Burnley. You can check, for example, Tarkovsky faces City in 8. Then Gabriel faces Fulham. Okay, it's not that hard. But Bruno is against Liverpool, so it's not that particularly beautiful to check. Yeah, here you have Leeds and Burnley facing off against each other, so I wouldn't say that this draft is the most optimal for the likes of activating a bench boost in a particular week. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by removing most of the players. I'm going to tell you how I see the draft and how I see the wildcard this week. So let's start removing the players that I don't think are going to be nailed in my team. Okay, so let's start with the players that we have left in the side. Dubravka, a keeper, playing against Manchester City this week, but he's the cheapest playing keeper that is a regular starter. Someone like Roefs, who has been performing pretty well, you can check him here. He is too expensive for my liking, 4.5 for a backup keeper. It's not going to cut it for me. So Dubravka is going to keep his place, because you need a second keeper if something happens with your first one. And I think that here is the place to start and the place to put your cheap asset in goal. Now, the 3 players that have survived my the initial draft are Gabriel, Semenyo, and Haaland. I'm not saying that they are not going to be they're going to be the only players that survive, but I wanted to take a look at different approach and different stuff. Gabriel has one of the best fixture runs on the horizon. He has Newcastle, West Ham, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Burnley, Sunderland, Spurs. You can keep him up until game week probably 11 without a shadow of a doubt, and even down the road, because this is Gabriel and he is great of a player himself. The next player that I think is a necessity on your draft is Semenyo. I think that he is the best asset at the moment in the league. He has been performing amazingly well. Here, no goals, no assists, and still 5 points. That's amazing. But yeah, he got a return in almost every game apart from that game against Spurs. But they still won that game against Spurs. So I would say that this Bournemouth team is very, very surprising for me. They are playing a very, very nice football, and I think that probably I will return Senesi as well to this team, but I want to keep building and I want to see where the building will lead me to. The last player that I think is a necessity if you are wildcarding is Haaland. I think that you cannot avoid Burnley, Brentford and Everton and Villa, because Villa are trash. Then you have Bournemouth and Liverpool and Newcastle, 3 hard fixtures. But then you have Leeds, Fulham, Sunderland, Palace, West Ham. You just have a clean run of good form, and Erling Haaland will keep rising in price. I know that a lot of people are worried about his injury, but we haven't heard anything yet from Guardiola, so I wouldn't be worried. These are the 4 players that I wouldn't start any wildcard draft without. I think those players are out of the question, and I think that they need to be in your draft and are must-haves for your wildcard team if you're doing it this week. Now, how I'm going to approach it? Pretty simple. I'm going to start by pinpointing some things that I've seen are omitted in the previous drafts that we have here. And the biggest omission that you have here is you have 0 Liverpool players, and that is very, very worrying. Of course, most of their players are pretty expensive, and I understand why they're missing from many people's drafts. But honestly, I just cannot see myself starting without any Liverpool asset. For me, this is close to suicidal. What are you going to do if Liverpool start doing well? You have Haaland, that he's just untouchable. He's going to remain there. Let's say that we go to someone like their midfielders and their forwards, because they're the most important players to get. Now you have Mo Salah, who is their most nailed asset, but is pretty expensive. You have Gakpo, that is very attacking, but has been lacking some returns in recent time. He delivered against Bournemouth, he delivered against Newcastle, but he has been struggling to deliver against the rest of the field. He got a very low underlying data, and I don't like currently that he is a rotation risk. But he is cheap, and that risk might be worth it. Next up is Florian Wirtz, that everyone is looking to sell, so I'm not going to consider Wirtz at the moment. Up front we have Ekitike, that he is currently suspended, and we have Isaac, that is very high price, but he hasn't started delivering. Now this team, if you take a look at it, how are you affording these players? You can get Gakpo instead of Bruno, that's one way, and that's it. You cannot get Salah without selling Haaland, impossible. You cannot get Isaac without selling Bruno first to someone and then Gyökeres, but then you're missing an Arsenal attacker, because if you sell Pedro, you need 2.7 million, so you need to drop him to 6.3, and having a lot of midfielders in that bracket is, yeah, just not happening, in my opinion. So you're pretty stuck without a Liverpool asset. What I prefer to do is here, I'm not going to pick Salah. I think that he is very expensive. I know that he is the most nailed one, but I think that you can risk it a little bit here. Of course, the cheapest risk that you can take is Cody Gakpo. He will keep delivering. He will keep doing well without a shadow of a doubt. What I think is going to be good after the international break, specifically after Gameweek 7, is owning Isaac. I think that if you're on a wild card, this might be a rogue shout, and he has not been up to par. is start with Isaac or Isaac, however you pronounce it, or start with Gakpo. That's the other choice. Many of you will probably choose to start with Gakpo, and that's understandable. But what I will do is start with Isaac. And many of you will think that I'm stupid and I'm speaking gibberish, but I cannot see myself starting without Isaac in my team. I think that goes without question that I need him in my side. Now we have Isaac, we have Haaland. What are we missing now? An Arsenal attacker. And for me, the best attacker to go from their team is Bukayo Saka. And I'm going to say it without any issues whatsoever. And I think that we are done with our expensive players. Saka, such as Gabriel, has an amazing fixture run, and I'm willing to take him into my team. Saka, Isaac, Haaland, Semenyo, good draft. You're probably going to say, but there are no certain penalty takers, especially Isaac, especially Saka. But I don't think that Gyökeres is that nailed on penalties. And if you want Salah plus Gyökeres, that is 23.5 million, while this is 20 million, almost 20.3. So I prefer this, and I'm saving a little bit of money. Of course, the cheapest route will be Gyökeres and Gakpo, but I prefer Isaac. I think Isaac will be playing, and I think that he will keep scoring. I don't think that for that hefty price that he came, he is going to be rotated as everyone expects. That is with my expensive players completed. Now, what am I missing in this draft? A Chelsea asset. Look how step by step the draft is coming by itself. I'm missing a Chelsea asset. Missing a Chelsea assets, we have several options. Of course, adding João Pedro is an option, but I think I prefer both Caicedo and Enzo to be selected in my team. Caicedo, a defensive contribution monster. You can rely on him every week, and week in and week out, you can just select him, and he will be delivering minimum of 4 points. And I think that this is pretty crucial. And I would say that I will start with Caicedo. If I have the budget, I will improve him to Enzo, because Enzo is now their penalty taker with Palmer injured. Palmer, we don't know if he is out yet or not, but I think that Caicedo is a brilliant asset to get in your side. Now we have the Chelsea coverage in attack, but he has been delivering pretty similar numbers to both Chauba and both João Pedro, so I would say that Caicedo, for cheaper than João Pedro, is more than welcome in our side. Look how we haven't even touched and dived into any of the fixtures, and that's pretty important, because I think fixtures are good, but you need some coverage from good players either way. Now, when we take a look at the fixtures, what I find pretty interesting is that Spurs run. I enjoy it very much, and I think here you need some players from them. Of course, I would say that you have several options from that team. I'll be both going defensively and offensively for their team. The cheapest asset for the defensive coverage for me is that Van den Ven pick. I think that you are saving 0.4 and you'll be more than happy to own that player. And up front, I think that the most nailed player that we can get is Kudus, and I'm more than happy to select Kudus in our lineup. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positions with an average of 30 million. So that's a lot of cheap players that need to get into our squad in order to save some money. But I already have a very nice core here that I can rely on every week, and I have a nice core here that I can rely on every week. Now keep improving the defense, and when taking a look at the fixtures, I think that a team like Newcastle is heavily underrated defensively. Apart from that Arsenal game where you can bench your defender, you have the possibility to attack Forest, Brighton, Fulham, West Ham, Brentford, skip City, and then go for Everton, Burnley, so on and so on. So you need a 4.5 player from Newcastle. Of course, you can go for their goalkeeper, but for the goalkeeper spot, I have a better solution myself. The best defender here that we can go from is, everyone is 5 million, and I think that the cheapest way to cover their defense at the moment, of course, many of you will say Trippier, but Trippier is not nailed, is to go for Dunbar. 5 million, spot on the budget. You can easily rotate with him. Looking at someone with a good fixture and easily rotatable down the line is someone from Bournemouth, game week 12, and game week 6 is where I will be most probably rotating my Newcastle defender, who have been a very good defense. So surprise, surprise, I'm returning Senesi into the lineup. Probably no one is surprised, but I want to have that coverage. Okay, we have our defensive round, and here I understand RONIN as a pick. We can go to a team like Sunderland, who have been playing very, very well, and they have some solid defenders like Alderete, who has been playing out of his mind. You have Bauer, sorry, who is expensive, so I'm not going there. You have Mukiele, who has gotten all the defensive contributions, and I'm probably going to resort to Mukiele. He has Forest, United, Wolves. You can easily rely on that player. Then he has Everton that are improved massively, but down the road I think Sunderland will have a nice possibility to pick their players from. I can even opt for someone like Granit Xhaka. I think with assists, with defensive contributions, you can see that he is getting them in 2 weeks. In the other, he got assists, and he has a pretty good run. Another player is, of course, Stash, who everyone in there, everyone got. So Stash is an option. I think with the fixtures on the horizon, probably Stash is better, so I can easily rely on Stash, but someone like Xhaka is more likely to get you the minimum points, but you can always risk it with Stash in your team. In goal, most of you will say just pick Raya and you're sorted. I think that another option is Donnarumma. Of course, here he got a yellow card and he lost his clean sheet, but City have improved massively, and this guy makes a lot of saves when needed. Only 2 and 2 in both games, but I think that you got your clean sheet sorted. Of course, if you have Raya at the moment and you don't want to waste money, it's an option to go there, but Donnarumma I feel like is a very, very interesting shout. And then looking at the forwards and what we have at the cheaper bracket, we can go for someone like Isidore. You can easily bench him or play with 4 defenders. For example, this week you can play Mukiele, you can play, oh no, you can play Isidore because they're playing a trash side that Forest are proving to be, and he can score. You can pick someone like Foster. He has a poor fixture run, but has some solid returns. He is looking like a starter, and you're going to say, but are you crazy picking players from these teams? Yeah, probably you have budget to go for someone like Thiago. Personally, I don't, so I'm building based on my budget. But if you have the budget, you can go for Thiago. You can pick someone like... There aren't too many better players. Richarlison, if you have the money already, but I think he's out of reach. I will resort to Isidore, because Forest, United, Wolves, Everton, Fulham, I can rely on this guy, and if some changes happen until then, more the better. But yeah, Isidore going into the lineup with already 3 goals scored. Every home fixture he has been scoring, so why the hell not? Of course, these 3 players on the right are the least favorable for me to keep in my squad, but I think that this right here is a wild card that I prefer more. And when comparing to the template one, we have Haaland, Semenyo, Stash. You can pick Rodon, whatever. Anderson is an interesting option that I haven't considered. Where are you playing Anderson exactly? 10, 11, 12. You have plenty of time until then, and a lot of things can change. Tarkovsky is out, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, all the same. And if I was wildcarding and playing a regular fantasy, this would have been my team, and I think that this for me looks stronger. And yeah, this week I'm starting 3-4-3 facing against Forest. Not the end of the world, they're conceding like hell. So yeah, you can rotate Caicedo and Stash if you prefer. You can play every week Caicedo. You can rotate Isidore with Stash if you think that Isidore is not scoring against Chelsea 9. You can go with stash in 8 and 9. You can rotate Caicedo in 7 or Caicedo in 9. Whatever you prefer. You can keep them both on the bench and go with your defenders. I think that this gives you an amazing flexibility. You can even free hit in 8. Not free hit, bench boost in 8. You have Wolves, you have Burnley, you have Wolves, you have Leeds, United, Everton, Wolves I already mentioned, Fulham, Palace, Villa. You can safely bench boost in 8. So this is a good bench boostable team, and this is a good team to go off of, in my opinion. This is my wildcard draft that I'm suggesting. Sorry if I took longer than expected, but I wanted to showcase to you how I built this draft. Yes, of course, defensive contributions are important, and you can swap Burn with a 4.5 Richards or Anderson and keep relying on those. But I prefer the clean sheets. If you take a look at all players, defensive contributions monster, only Senes is here, but he got these clean sheets as well to his name. So he has 3 clean sheets to his name. So it's not like he's not getting the clean sheets. And everyone else is not defensive contribution return, but also clean sheets in the bank. So I would say that having these defensive assets, of course Livramento can be safer than Burn, but I prefer to go a little bit cheaper, as I will interchange all of my defenders in 8. They play Brighton, so I'm more than happy to do so. I want to listen to your opinion, what you think about this draft. Of course, I think many of you will say, are you crazy to go with Isak, Isidore, Saka? But if you want the same draft, you can just go and copy this draft and you'll be a happy person. But I honestly believe that this is the best wildcard for the upcoming match day 6 with a very limited budget. Sadly, Enzo is unreachable, but that's okay. I have a lot of firing power and a lot of cheeky players that will get to the minimum and some exciting assets to deliver. This week the captains will go to Erling Haaland, of course, but down the road you can interchange, and we have Isak to cover Liverpool as captaincy as well. This is going to be the end of the video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I know that the FPL content has been a little bit limited, but I think most of the content creators are creating the same content, and I'm trying to think of something different just like this. If you enjoy my content and want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to join my mini league, you are going to beat me 1,000,000%. I'm pretty bad this year, so yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. And I'm not hiding it. I'm doing worse than expected, but I think with time we will improve. Of course, if you're interested in UCL fantasy content, there I'm doing way better, so you can subscribe in order to follow this as well. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for being part of the community, and thank you so much for still watching me. Deadline stream will be coming. I have to fix issues in my team, so probably will take a very good chunk of the deadline stream to decide what to do with my site, but of course I know you will help me through it. Once again, thanks so much, and I hope to see you very soon. But for now, guys, I'll be heading out. Bye.